We are now on air. Time for a total takeover.
It's finally here. Welcome to a new episode.
It's about to go down.
First and foremost, giving honor to God and to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for allowing me to see another day. TGIF, thank God it is Friday. Long week. A historic week from the aspect of the Addams household. I don't know, my wife will let me go ahead and say this. I don't think she will mind, but she is starting a new chapter in her life. She has ended her stint at the job that she had for 22 years yesterday. I believe it's 22 years, and she is starting a new job on Monday. So please keep her in your prayers as she starts this new chapter in her life and in her employment life and that good stuff. And you know, the reasons behind it, I'm not going to get into it, but she's at ease and she's at peace, and that's all that matters. Let's go ahead and get into one topic I want to talk about today, and I'm just going to load you up with some clips today. But the title of this episode, the subject of this episode is, if grown-ups, if grown folk want to get freaky deaky, fine, but leave our kids alone. I'm going to play a clip right after this. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and just, quickly say what I got to say and play these clips. And it's going to be a clip right after this from Megyn Kelly. I haven't had my coffee yet. Megyn Kelly, when she was on the Eric Bolling show on Newsmax. And they talk about what she brought up, the whole atmosphere of gender dysphoria, and how over 70% of individuals who start going through these feelings that, they're not the proper sex or gender, that they grow out of it, over 70%. And the people who are pushing this sexualization and this transitioning of kids don't want to talk about that statistic, don't even want to broach the topic of that statistic. So they're not being genuine in their efforts, number one. And as you'll see in this clip, Megyn Kelly kind of breaks it down very succinctly, and I really don't need to get into it. But I do want to say this before we get into the Friday video clip blitz. Leave our damn kids alone.
Now let's bring in one of my good friends, journalist. And before I say host, I'm going to say welcome to Prime Time, because her nickname, if it's not Prime Time, it should be Prime Time. Host of the Megyn Kelly Show. Megyn Kelly, my good friend, Megyn Kelly. Thank you so much for joining us, Megyn.
Hi. So wait a minute. I'm so happy for you. I just want to say congratulations to you before we get going. You deserve this.
Well, thank you so much, Megyn. You've always been a great friend, and love having you on the show, on our first show, on our maiden primetime voyage. So let's talk a little bit about this. We both came from Fox back in the day, and, this whole idea of this not only the Pride Month that Fox is now promoting and doing, but this whole thing about the family, the trans family, where the young girl said that she was a boy, but she told her mom at 2 years old with her eyes. She wasn't able to talk yet, but with her eyes, the mom says. What's going on over at Fox?
Well, I'll tell you, I've done stories on trans kids, and I actually know somebody. We have a couple trans people in my own family, and one of them was male to female. And the male to female person says that they knew at a very, very young age that they were supposed to be a girl. And traditionally, if you look at the history of gender dysphoria, it affects mostly, almost exclusively, little boys who think that they're actually girls. Now, the stats show that 70% of those kids will grow out of it if left alone, if you don't interfere. But not all of them will. So there's room for some reporting on this. There is room for reporting on how to identify what's real, what's not, how to be supportive, how not to do anything drastic until you know, all that stuff, okay? The problem is the Fox News Channel mission is not to do reports that sound like MSNBC, right? The Fox News Channel mission is to make sure that they include the context that gets ignored by all of the other stations. And in 2022 in particular, we know that there's a lot more to this story. And it is irresponsible to put it on the air like this as a celebration without flagging for the parents out there who are going through this, the significant downsides of jumping onto this without making sure you're in that very, very small percentage of cases where this gender dysphoria might actually be a thing. And the trope of I'd rather have a dead, daughter than a live son, or the other way around. And it's like, that's a very dangerous trope, because this is used by the LGBTQ activists to shame parents who know about that 70% statistic, that generally if I stay out of it, my kid's going to outgrow this. And in many cases, they just turn out to be gay. It's like, this is a weird form of conversion therapy by default. And so to not flag the significant downsides of what happens to these kids when they're put on puberty blockers, when they're put on cross-gender hormones. By the way, when that's done to girls, they're sterile. They can't have children anymore. And you could go down the list. Is irresponsible to their mission. I mean, I don't expect any of the mainstream press to do it. I really don't. And although they should. In 2022, we know enough that they should. Well, but I am surprised to see Fox News not doing it at all.
Conservative social media is up in arms, and I think you and I would agree with this. We don't care if, as an adult, who you sleep with, who you want to wake up next to, who you want to dress like. I care less. It's when the children, and we've seen this push by teachers who are pushing this on children. We see libs of TikTok exposing so many teachers who, I came out to my third grade, our second grade kids, and another stat, Megan, and this is where the rubber meets the road, and I hate using those terms, but I just saw a statistic that in the last year, the number of children, the rate of children identifying as trans has doubled than it was just 5 years ago. And it may be because of some of this, and maybe these kids, it's not that they're finally realizing who they are, what they want to be, they think it's more acceptable, and it's what they should be doing, not what they really are.
No, that's what's so disturbing. When I first started covering these issues, because I've seen it in my own family, I was very kind and open-minded and sure to point out to people that this is a real thing in a small amount of cases, and we shouldn't be bullying people who suffer from this. What's happened since then, Eric, is we've lost our minds on this issue. It's become a political issue almost. It's like the politics of it have taken over the actual issue of it, to where now if somebody's calling their child a baby instead of a baby, it's going to be some far left woke progressive who's got some political agenda they're working out on their kid. And it's abusive. And now what we're doing is hiding facts from parents who have an absolute role in this, teachers who have their own agenda trying to push it on children when it comes to sex, when it comes to gender, things that they should not be coming anywhere near. And that one middle school teacher working out her issues because she feels safe with her sixth graders, go to a therapist. Don't work out your issues on my kid. In fact, if my kid brings any issues of his own to you, you bring them to me. I didn't hire you for that. I hired you to teach math. That's it. This woman's not well enough to be in front of these kids. So we've crossed over to this point in society where it's getting really dangerous, because tolerance by people who wanted to be open-minded, who were totally in favor of non-bullying and support and, a loving, kind society, have been taken advantage of now, to the point where their children are being wrestled away from them. We've seen that literally in Matt Walsh's film, What is a Woman? We've seen that case in Canada where a guy lost his daughter because he would not say that she was his son. So more and more tolerance is being exploited to the point of abuse of the child and, by extension, the parent.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated. No more drilling on federal lands. No more drilling, including offshore. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period. I guarantee you we're going to end fossil fuel.
What about, say, stopping fracking and stopping new pipeline infrastructure?
Exactly. No new fracking.
We are going to get rid of fossil fuels.
I've argued against any more oil drilling or gas drilling on federal lands.
No one's going to build a coal-fired plant again, and we're going to get rid of the ones we have now.
Have a transition from the oil industry, yes.
Would you be willing to sacrifice some of that growth, even knowing potentially that it could displace thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of blue-collar workers in the interest of transitioning to that greener economy?
The answer is yes.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Would you be willing to sacrifice some of that growth, even knowing potentially that it could displace thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of blue-collar workers in the interest of transitioning to that greener economy?
The answer is yes.
No offense, but it sounds like some f***ing commie gobbledygook.
Somewhere else? No, I think the average Fox News viewer has been seeing for a year and a half this play out over and over again. Rioters attack our Capitol. We've seen it on every single channel, even Fox Local, if you watch that. So people understand exactly what happened. And so what is the smoking gun here? What is the breaking news?
Well, that's
I know,
what
but
we're waiting for.
People will turn in once the Department of Justice says, okay, here are the charges.
Well, I have to disagree with you there.
Let me finish. We want some criminal charges if that's what you want. That's what we'll see next. We're not even going to see that in these 9 hearings.
No.
And then if we think about the actual intention of this, there's a sentiment that Democrats need to rebrand this midterm message, right? So by airing this, you're going to remind everybody, like, hey, Trump is aligned with other conservatives, and even though that's not always true, there's plenty of people who spoke out against this. And so now, reminder, don't vote for these people in the midterms because you want to keep the majority. And I think that that is a losing message by looking in the past and not looking in the future, because there's things on top of mind for people. There are things like feeding your baby, which I talked about yesterday. There are things on top of mind like people wanting to know if a recession is looming. There are things on top of mind like wondering how to pay for your gas.
Stealing gas. You're going to see video coming in. Thieves stole nearly 1,100 gallons of fuel from an Orlando, Florida gas station. And you know what? Rocketing diesel prices are worsening the trucker shortage, too. We need those guys for the supply chain. But here's what's going on. Biden's climate czars, here's what they're focused on in the White House. They're now doing an all-out push to censor criticism of green energy on social media. Kelly O'Grady is in Los Angeles with the story. Kelly.
Good to see you, Liz. Well, White House climate advisor Gina McCarthy now saying big tech is not doing enough to remove what she deems climate change misinformation. In a recent interview with Axios, arguing, quote, the tech companies have to stop allowing specific individuals over and over again to spread disinformation. That's what the fossil fuel companies pay for. We need the tech companies to really jump in. But while Twitter bans ads that promote what they dub climate denialism and Facebook enlists fact checkers to review green stories, progressives complain this allows a loophole for opinion. Now, this illuminates the fundamental debate about First Amendment rights. Some industry experts arguing that big tech playing an arbiter on climate change is akin to being a state actor.
I can't imagine anything more unconstitutional than censoring Facebook, Twitter, Instagram about what should be put out there about climate change. Those are issues that are crucial and central to a democratic society, and they need to be debated in public.
If big tech does acquiesce to further censorship and platforms become more like editors, it begs the question whether they should continue to be protected by Section 230. Back to you, Liz.
That's a great point. That's great reporting there. Kelly O'Grady, terrific to see you.
But if you were in Brazil, you'd be paying the same amount for gas at the pump, over $5. If you were in Canada, you'd be paying over $6. If you were in Germany, you'd be paying over $8. So
we're talking about the United States,
around
though.
The world.
We're talking about the United States right now and what the president can do.
If you filled up your EV by charging and you filled up your gas tank with gasoline and you have the same size tank, you would save $60 per fill up by going electric rather than using gasoline. So it's a very compelling case. But again, to your point, we want to bring down the price at the point of purchase.
Why don't you wake up and smell what you shoveling?
Let's get into this. Ladies and gentlemen, they don't want y'all to know about this one. Nah, they ain't gonna let y'all know about this one. This is a Texas school situation where the gunman took a L, and it's in the all-black community. And they don't want y'all to think that black people do this stuff. Now, I don't know who the perpetrator was. He is now RIP. I don't know who the perpetrator was, but I know what Duncanville is. I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas. Duncanville is another, where I grew up at and where I went to school at, Dunbar High School, all-black community. Duncanville is the all-black community of Dallas. And so it's full of black people. And so I'm going to assume, maybe it's a fair assumption that it's probably a black person. And if you never hear about the shooter, you never see a picture, it's because he's black. Now, here's the information they really don't want you to know. They really don't want you to talk about this. And they're going to compare this to Uvalde, and it ain't even close. However, check this out. What happened in this situation? This man goes to a school, to a children's summer camp in Dallas at Duncanville, And he ended up losing his life. Why, Mr. Tatum? Look at the first thing it says. The unidentified male appeared to fire 2 shots at Duncanville Fieldhouse, which is where the football facility is at, a youth sports training venue in the city, about 13 miles south of Dallas, which is pretty much in Dallas. It says the armed suspect entered the complex main lobby door, and what happened to him, y'all, was confronted by a staff member who exchanged gunfire with him. I'm about to get out of here. What happened? He went into school, and a staff member, I want y'all to, this is why they ain't gonna never put this on the news. A staff member, meaning there was a staff member armed there. It don't say police officer. It says staff member. Exchanged gunfire with him. He runs out of that particular complex. It says the man then went to a classroom full of kids and opened fire from outside after he was what? Unable to get in. Staff fire shots on him. He had to fire through a window because what? They didn't leave the door open. He wasn't able to get in there. And then, since he couldn't get in, the police showed up, and then, they put that thing on him. Now, unfortunately for these children, nobody got injured at all, even though the guy fired multiple shots in the classroom, and he fired, I think, at a gymnasium. No kids were injured, and his life was extinguished. Why are they not going to put this on the media? Well, let me tell you this. He used a handgun. That's like 50 reasons why the media won't play it. It's probably a black guy. He used a handgun. A staff member must have had a gun because the staff member started exchanging gunfire with him. And then he goes to try to go into one of the classrooms. What? It's locked. The classroom is on lockdown. He could not get into the classroom. All of this before police could ever get there. They took care of business at the school. This is what we're talking about. You can change every law in the book if you want to. They taking care of business at the school. Now, the police response, obviously because Duncanville is a pretty large area. Duncanville have way more people that live in it than Uvalde would ever think of. They got there in about 2 minutes. It says they received a 911 call at 8:43 a.m. about a person with a gun in the building. Officers arrived 2 minutes later. Into the building, looking for the armed individual. Duncanville police say. It says children were in the building, whatever. Somehow they ended up confronting the dude outside, and they blew him away. Now, let me just say this at the very end because I know a lot of people go, see, they should have did that in Uvalde. Let me give you an example of why this is very different. First of all, Duncanville is literally Dallas, and Duncanville PD probably has a SWAT team. And Duncanville and Dallas and every surrounding jurisdiction can show up at that school probably in 5 minutes. And then what happened at the school? And nobody was sitting ducks at the school. They came in the front and started busting at the suspect. Then what did they do? They locked the door so he couldn't get in. So when the cops got there, they're confronting the guy outside. They're not confronting the guy that's locked behind a door that's impenetrable. As you can see, he couldn't get in the doors, even with a gun, because they're impenetrable. And they took care of business. But I tell you what, they're going to talk about Uvalde in here. Where they at? They bring up Uvalde every single time. They don't want you to forget this one. While you're thinking about the success rate of what happened here, they don't want you to forget this one. And I tell you this, as sure as I'm standing here, these are two different situations. Uvalde is in the middle of nowhere. Duncanville, all these black schools that are literally in the same area. Duncanville is a 5A school. And if you don't know about 4A, 5A, Duncanville is one of the biggest schools in Texas. Like the size, one of the biggest size schools in Texas. They could be 6A at this point. Duncanville is a huge school. Duncanville probably got half of the population of Uvalde probably goes to Duncanville High School. And this is a summer camp, so it probably wasn't as populated. But he took that L like he was supposed to. But I just had to, when I saw this come across, I said, man, I got to talk about this. One reason because it's much different than Uvalde. And the second reason is because the staff took care of business at the school. And this should be, every school in the country should be equipped just like this. But a black school, people had guns there. They did the right thing. Black police officers probably showed up and took care of business, and they don't want you to know about it. I love you guys. I'll see you on the next one, man. I'm out.
So I got in a conversation today, and the woman, honestly, bless her heart, honestly thinks that food prices are not going to go up. She thinks that this is the highest they're going to go. I tried to explain to her that that was not the case, that they are absolutely going to go up even more. And I told her there are things that like we have to buy. There's something we had to buy that 2 years ago cost us $24. Last year was about $46. This year it is costing us $96. Okay. Local farmer, 50 head of cattle. It's costing him $8,000 a month to feed them. Please understand, food prices are going to go up. You want to act like it's the farmer's fault. It is not the farmer's fault. We're barely making it to grow the stuff so you guys are able to get it in August, September, October. Okay? Guys, this is not going away. Stop sticking your head in the sand and thinking, oh, it's going to be okay. It's not going to fucking be okay.
But right now, there's a lot of shenanigans that's going on. Right now, our major concern is protecting our country. As we all can see, some of us can see, and some of us are in denial. Or some of us are just foolish enough to not care. Our country is in a state of emergency. We need to be protected here in the United States. The only president that I know that stood up strong and long for this great nation is our president, Donald Trump. He did everything that he can do. But even the Bible say foolish hands tear down a strong home. We got crime on our streets. Our young children are being killed. People need to be fed. Our president is abandoning us, neglecting his job responsibilities, just like any other job. This is his job, to protect the United States of America. That's what he signed up for. That's what he swore in for. And this is what he should be doing. And he's not doing it.
10 years ago, if you had told me, I would have been pretty floored that this is a conversation. Although one thing we get into in the film, and there's so many aspects to gender ideology that it's like 90 minutes can't even begin to cover it. So there are all these different avenues that I hope other people make movies to follow. So for example, we spend a brief amount of time getting into the history of where this stuff came from, where gender ideology came from. And it goes back, I mean, arguably it goes back, into the 19th century, but certainly it goes back to the mid 20th century with two guys we talk about, John Money and Alfred Kinsey. And that's where the seed was planted. So although 10 years ago, if I had known that what is woman would be a controversial question, I would have been surprised by that. That's only because I and most other people weren't aware of what was already happening and kind of bubbling under the surface and making its way through our institutions, especially academia. And that had been going on for decades before. I'm just trying to start by getting to the truth,
Yeah, I mean, I'm really uncomfortable with that language of like getting to the truth. Again, in social life.
Why is that uncomfortable?
Because it sounds actually deeply transphobic to me. And if you keep probing, we're going to stop the interview.
If I probe about what the truth is?
You keep invoking the word truth, which is condescending and rude. I'm saying to you...
How is the word truth condescending and rude?
Why don't you tell me what your truth is, and you're walking on 30 seconds more of thin ice before I get up.
What my truth is? Well, I don't think I really have a truth. I think that there's just the truth, like the reality.
So I guess these radical leftists and professors that are spewing this nonsense to college kids and high schoolers and all the way down to elementary kids really don't know what a woman is, do they? While I was in Nashville, I had an opportunity to speak with Matt Walsh about that film. Take a peek. Why is it in 2022, Matt, when it's so controversial to try and use facts and science and biology and say what a woman is?
Well, I think the left is a very anti-truth movement, and so any basic truth has become controversial in our society, and especially when it comes to the trans agenda. It kind of hinges on the destruction of truth ultimately, and the most basic truth, biological truth. What's a man, what's a woman, has become controversial because of that.
what put you on this mission? You know, you and I both, a little over a year ago, went to some school board meetings. I went to my daughter's. You even went further to get a home so you could make a point and really hammer those folks in Virginia, right?
Virginia,
What took you on this journey to go from that and seeing the tyranny with the mandates and the nonsense to then seeing this woke that came after you, cancel culture mob, to get to a point where you're doing a movie trying to prove what a woman is to people?
Yeah, I think it was a journey. It became obvious to me that, especially with how the gender ideology is being imposed on kids, that this is not a small thing. It's a major problem. And a couple years ago, it occurred to me that the whole thing really hinges on the definition of man and woman. If you can't define that, then the whole agenda breaks down. And I tried asking people this question: what is a woman? On Twitter and like speeches and that sort of thing. Nobody would answer it. And so finally, it was just like, well, we got to go out there and actually put the question in front of people in a more active kind of way and force them to confront it. And that's what the last year has been, basically.
Well, thank you. Can I say that? And God bless you for doing it, because I think that more Americans feel the way you and I feel.
They do.
And people that follow science and facts and logic feel the way we feel. We know what a woman is and a man, and that's it. They're all there is. What's next for Matt Walsh? Because it seems you like being in the center of controversy while you're doing this good work. So what's next?
We're still working on that. It's got to be something. It's got to be something even more offensive to the left than the last one. So I got the bar set kind of high. We got to figure it out. Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
You set the bar very high.
Thank you.
Keep it up, brother.
Get a feel for my lingo. Light skin complexion, the strip from the rainbow. Where freckles to connect, collect much respect. The dialect changes as my rhymes intersect. I flow like a river, skills I deliver. You nasty like liver, I'm bona fide the giver. Masterpiece that lasts for weeks. It lingers on to reach the highest of the peaks. Defeats I never witness. So flip this, I rip this. As the underground kicks this. Get a job is slob, turn the doorknob to the light. My mind takes flight to another realm of a gifted MC who has the equal right to show his versatility. Always staying true to the jazz, never solo. So get a feel for my lingo. This is my breakthrough. It's long overdue. Come see what I do. It's all brand new. This is my breakthrough. It's long overdue. Come see what I do. It's all brand new. We reached the crossroads. My beat is beating on your earlobes. There's loads of weak lyricists trying to set the new codes. I don't pay attention cause the herbs are on detention. My science universal that I forget to mention. Verbal assassin, legit rhyme writer. Searching through the woods so I can take out the sniper. Relax, frame of thought, it don't matter. I'm always trying to defend myself from the chatter. Your mark is obsolete and scripted in the wood. I'm good, can't you tell? Fell off but never fell. Getting the job done like the Big Daddy King. But I'm the Big Daddy, wanna battle for the rain. So quick to change your mind cause your flow is unrefined. Time like an hourglass, rhymes full of trash. Blast from the cannon and straight to place to go. So get a feel for my lingo. This is my breakthrough. It's long overdue. Come see what I do. It's all brand new. This is my breakthrough. It's long overdue. Come see what I do. It's all brand new. I exist to parallel myself to the greats that I dig in, different from the norm I swarm. I'm strong, I last long, critique my rap song. I get a thumbs up when it sums up. Average, better yet denominator. I blow up the spot when you reach the equator. I paid all my dues straightforward. You benefit from verbal spit, your ass walks awkward. Split to bring the jazz to the forefront. The proper architect is building long-lasting intellect. Medium rare, I swear, never overheated. Never feel remorse, the course has been defeated. I treated MCs for the whackology. My bopology spawns the rap spree. Let's flee into the jungle. Let's get ready to rumble and flow and get a feel for my lingo.